Hello. Thanks for calling the tabletop. Nope. Thanks for joining us at the Tabletop Call-In Show. We are here to talk to you, the viewer, about games and stuff and whatever else. As always, I am Adam Bell. You could find me anywhere at Adam E. Bell. Check out the games that I make because they're good at adamebell.games. I'm joined by...
Hi everyone. I am Jeremy Gage. You can find me at JeremyGage5 over on Twitter, and you can listen to the Draw Your Dice podcast, where I talk to a ton of cool people about cool game-related items.
Yeah, it's good. And you can... we never do this stuff. You can follow the show on Twitter at Tabletop Call-In. You should subscribe on Twitch. I think that does something.
Lets you know whenever we're going live.
Yeah, you should.
Testing new streaming equipment.
Yeah, well, that should be fixed now. You can, follow us here. Get us in your podcast app. Rate us on iTunes or whatever the hell you're supposed to say about podcasts. Go to the YouTube to watch the archive. Thumb that shit up. If you're here on YouTube, subscribe to that. Look, I'm doing great here. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm doing good. I had a lot of interviews this week for the DYD podcast. Also, hashtag Juice Nation for all the juicers out there.
Oh, shit.
To bring you those videos.
Oh, good. Sorry. Go back one sentence because I am just idly clicking in Discord and left the channel.
No, Juice Nation doing the interviews.
Great.
Juicers out there and just living a life of non-luxury.
Non-luxury. That's great. We love to hear we love to hear that. I am continuing my streak of doing this show as my only interaction really with tabletop RPGs, except for like light design work on the back end, trying to get my projects to completion. So still haven't played shit. Still haven't read shit. But hopefully that'll come to an end soon. How about you? Have you played anything? You seem like you've got some weekly stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm playing a campaign of Lighthearted with a couple of friends every Monday. That's been fun to explore. I'm about to do like a time skip into sophomore year for that. And then Lighthearted by Kurt Potts. Go out and get it. It's real good. And then, let's see. I'm playing in a D&D one-shot tonight to help a friend gap up like a party separation thing. So I'll be playing like a lore-dumping PC.
Oh, there we go.
And then...
Those are fun.
Yeah.
That.
Basically, I'm co-DMing.
Yeah.
And... other than that, not currently trying to get a Band of Blades game off the ground, but Jesus Christ, can it just not? We're all busy. We're all busy.
It's tough to schedule, I guess.
Yeah, adults,
Who knew?
Weirdos.
Hopefully, eventually, I will be ready to schedule something like that. I'm just bad. I don't know if we've talked about this on the show or not, but I'm really bad at playing online games if I'm not playing in-person games. Because it's just an energy level thing. I need to charge the energy from doing things in person and playing games in person. And then I'm like, ooh, I love playing games a lot. Where else can I do that? I could do that on the internet with my cool friends from there. But without that first step, I'm just like, oh, I gotta sit in front of the computer. Are games even fun?
We're trying to make them funner every day.
Yeah.
Every day on the internet.
We do our best. No callers yet. Do you want to take do one of the special questions? Twitter questions?
Yeah.
Did we pull the ones from this week?
We have more from this week? Uh-oh. Did not see that. I'll find it. But we do have one from Aaron Lim.
Oh, yeah, from last week that we didn't do?
Yeah.
Because it was long?
Yeah.
Not long, but could have a long answer. Well, first we should do Aaron Lim's first one from last week, which is best grappling rules. So I need to hear that from you. But the
I think best grappling rules where you put the dice down, you remove all the paper off of the table.
Okay.
Everyone gets up, and then they grapple.
a physical challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Not determined by stats, not determined by rolls, but through sheer force of will.
All right, and then the other half of the question was, on a less shitposty note, how much do you / should you tell players about the inner workings of games, the reasoning behind mechanical choices, and why are they usually seen as separate from the main text?
I think that you absolutely should. I am a bit like, I've been reading through the Affinity Design workbooks, and they have like little blocked out red quotes that indicate like, hey, this is like something this tool is supposed to be used for, an example or such. And I personally, and I think Numenera also does this as well. Numenera has a lot of that side designer addition in it.
Yeah.
Helpings. I would love that. It's something I want to do for my games. Like, hey, this was the intended purpose of this rule or whatever, or this section, right? This is what I was trying to capture. If you need help as the GM, or if you need help as the player to understand what's going on, sort of like an extra helping hand thing. I can see why not everyone would want to do that. Sort of maybe as like a narrative. I don't know, narrative leniency, I suppose. But I love it. I think designer tips in games could be very cool, especially if like visually designed in a great way. I think it can add a lot.
Yeah, if you putting them in that sidebar like that does bring up the half the question of why are they separate from the main text. But like, I am kind of desperate to make a bigger book so that I can, because when I'm designing for like a small, like a zine size, and my game's already run over on page count for what I would like to put in a zine, so I have no free space to play with in that. So I would love to make a book like that has that extra stuff. But I think I do usually put. I can't remember, because you've read some of my stuff. Do I?
Yeah.
Explain why I'm doing things. When's the last time I read one of my games? It's been a while.
Your voice naturally lends into, like, you put it in the main text. You sort of say like, hey, this game is meant to do this thing, and it's not going to execute this other thing that you think it might do. Like, I think I remember you have some of that in No Stone Unturned, and you definitely have some of that like voice in Reliance as well.
Yeah, and because in Reliance, it's like the way I've presented these mechanics, it's so that you can tell a story about Revolution that is not. Wow, my brain is not. The cylinders are not firing today. A version of it that is not about like the normal stories of Revolution that we see in media, where it's like, oh, we just banded up, and then, well, because we banded up, we won. There's no additional work needed. Yeah.
It seems that Eli wants to call in, but doesn't know the link. Maybe.
Is that true?
Yeah, Eli says, "Tell me, Jeremy, what do I do?" I assume that's in reference to calling in.
Also, or was it making fun of me saying, asking you to tell me how I make my games?
Well, then I misunderstood. But either way, Eli, you should call in. I don't know if Eli's called in yet. Yeah,
I don't think.
Everyone get the fuck in here. I'll say it. I'll use the F word. We need callers today. We need questions. Unless I can find that Twitter post that has additional questions on it.
I do have it up. So once we're done juicing this fruit,
Want to bounce me a link?
I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, I mean it's in here. I'll just put it in that channel.
That'd be
I'm trying to think of. I had another answer to this. I think the inner workings, the reasoning. Yeah, it kind of opens up a conversation about who we're designing the games for. Yeah. Like, are we designing games for game designers, or are we designing games for people to play them? or to read them and like understand how they would play them at least. And I don't know I don't know who giving the reasoning behind the mechanical choices is for in that case. Like, is that, hey, other game designers, you know how mechanics work. Check this one out. That's why I did that one. I genuinely don't know of a time in my life that I was reading games without like that type of already mechanical brain, and so I enjoy reading that stuff. But like, you'd have to get a focus group together to see if your average dice roller enjoys it.
I think what that lays up for me is that I recently had a talk with Dan Phipps and Collie Laurie from Gem Room Games, and Collie talks about, we had a conversation about accessibility. And one of the things that maybe people aren't thinking about when it comes to accessibility is the new player experience, because she said she finds a lot of games that she reads kind of make assumptions that you've been playing tabletop games for the last decade or so.
Definitely.
And so she is not one of those people. And so when her and Dan make their games, they try to make sure that they include sort of the things that other people are leaving out because they have assumed expertise in that book, right? I even think about like when I read Heart, the City Beneath, it sort of has like these beginner role-playing things, but I think it also makes some assumptions about how like, hey, if you come from like an O background, you'll understand like sort of the grittiness of this game a little bit more, or to that effect, right? And
right.
I think that when we think about adding these mechanics tips, designer tips, things inside of our books, in our content, our products, that we can't always assume that the person who's picking up our book is someone who's been designing, right? So I guess in your question about like who are we designing for, is that stuff more geared towards the game designer? I think it's also geared towards like the new GM, right? Because they're essentially a game designer, maybe not in the mechanical or write a book sense, but they're writing narrative adventure on top of all of our stuff. You know what I mean? They're designing still, just narratively.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's help them do that, you know?
Let's help them do that. Let's make games that people can play.
Yeah.
We do have a caller.
Yeah.
Currently, he's sitting in the waiting room. His friend of the show. One day I won't get to say that about somebody. We have Eli sitting in there. So I'm going to pull Eli in. Unless you've got more. No, let's...
No. Just want to shout out Jason Dex for joining us for the show for the first time, it seems like.
Hello, welcome to thanks for calling the Tabletop Call-In Show. Who are we talking to? If you can hear us.
This is Eli Seitz, and I was dared by Jeremy to join the show.
I will fight you until you join.
Well, it worked. Congratulations.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Yeah, I was just enjoying your chatting about mechanics and how much you put in background reasoning. And something I've been thinking about recently is how do you include your personal, like, authorial voice in RPGs and find a balance between voice and tone and explaining mechanics that can be difficult to explain just by themselves, but also wanting to get away from just like a board game manual that's 5 pages long that you flip through that tells you what to do, but gives no flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
Look at me.
Out of the two of us, you're the expert currently. So
is that? I mean, I don't know.
You have to give the best answer. You have to give the best answer.
Right.
I'll follow up on that show.
So you're basically asking here, how do we approach making our games not boring as hell to read?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that accurate? Great question. I don't know if I do, is one answer. But I think what I try to do, to who knows what degree of success, is to just like think about how you would interact with those mechanics. And so even if it is still just me saying, like, this is how this works, this is how this works, like structuring it in a way, even if like the text isn't super, oh my God. Just looked at the chat and see Jeff Stormer say, "I'm Hollywood voice actor Matt Mercer." I can't deal with it.
Y'all are famous now.
So trying to structure it in a way that like just makes sense, so that if this is the first mechanic you're going to interact with, it's the first one you read about, and if that brings in another one, that's how you, instead of just being like, because there are some games that are just like a loose collection of rules, and it's challenging to figure out how to actually understand how to play it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have like a spicy style of writing, which also would help, like if you're just, if the words you're writing are genuinely fun to read, which I don't know if mine are, that would help. But if they're not, planning around like it being an object of play, I think is good.
That makes sense. I think that's how I structured my last Zine Quest game. That was, if you're going to play this game, you start at page 1, and by the time you get to the end of the book, you've played the game. And you kind of go in order.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thinking about like in the game itself, like where certain pages are, like the center spread is the easiest one to get to, so put something important there. Mm-hmm. The back page is a good spot because you can get right to it. What do you think, Jeremy? That way, right?
I think you had a great answer. I think that there's definitely Eli, I just want to clarify one thing. When we talk about this authorial voice and not making our games boring to read, right? Like getting them away from the reference guide. Do you mean this in form of like the entirety of text, or do you mean like, do you think this could be supplemented by examples, right? Like play examples that you put after like rules or something, like Blades in the Dark does this to some effect, right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely a way that some writers and designers have introduced their voice, is through those play examples, and you can make those examples connect and build characters that are the players and characters that are the players' characters within your examples. And I think that's a really neat way to go about it. But I also have seen plenty of games that introduce that flavor and tone within the writing of the rules themselves. We think about Apocalypse World and the way that rules text reads is very flavored.
I only ask as a priming because for me, I think that it's almost like for me, if I were thinking of my own personal principles, I think it'd be something where I just have 2 sections of a book, where like one section is sort of like like we've proposed here today, kind of walking through the main text of rules and adding in flavorful prose and things like that help get those things across in a sugar-coated way. But I think I would also include a section that is hard reference for like when you want to, especially depending on how crunchy the game is. I think this also depends on the style of game you're writing to what effect I would do this, but I would definitely include like a back section or front section, whatever. How some books include like a flow chart, right? Like Iron Sworn does this to some effect. But just the section where it's like an index or a glossary of like, hey, here are the terms we went over in like the very flavored portion. If you imagine trying to bring that book to the table, have all that sort of prose present rules and trying to sift through that and get to an answer that you need right now rather than an answer that you need to like skim for without like highlighting your book or whatever. So I would include like a reference section, I guess, and separate those two to make one a tool version and make one a fun to read version.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I know that there have been a number of games that do that. Iron Sworn. I also know that Flotsam is a anti-blind game that introduced like a flowchart or like a checklist of how you set scenes in that game. That's kind of like an order to it. So that's definitely a really good tool that really helps cater to, like you were talking about before I came on, of how do people play this game? especially if you have been playing games for a long time.
Yeah, trying to not make those assumptions about the audience that are picking, because we don't know who's gonna buy our content once it's out there. You know what I mean?
I just put it in the chat, but if the show crashes, it's because my computer, I can kind of feel a blue screen coming on.
It's really starting to jive slow.
It just did something weird to my display, and it's just been happening lately. So sorry about that. But yeah, I think that's the splitting it into kind of reference bit makes sense to me. Because yeah, that's the problem with like making the text like overly engaging. Then when you're playing, you're like, how the hell does this work? I swear it's in here.
Yeah.
Through 60 pages to find this rule.
Damn you, D&D.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Cool. Well, Eli, do you have anything you want to plug or anything before you?
Yeah, I mean, I am currently thinking about this problem because I am currently writing my Zine Quest game, which is called Thursday, and it's a Belonging Inside Belonging game about time travel loops based on the Netflix show Russian Doll. And it's going to be real cool.
It's great.
It's going to come out this summer.
So cool. I need it. I need it
If
out.
you want to learn more, you should listen to me talk to Jeremy about all the DYD podcasts, because that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I need it out.
I'm excited about it.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye, Eli. Thank you.
Cool.
I love it. Licks fingers, holds it up to the wind. I feel a blue screen coming in. Chat is good today. Thank you, chat.
I'm kind of ill prepared for that question, I think, because my shit's probably boring to read.
No, what?
At least
I literally just told you it has great voice. What do you mean?
Well, Reliance is good because it's so damn short that I had to make it good. It's like a self-editing thing.
Do not.
But
I'm gonna yell. Don't make me yell.
The games are good. You don't have to yell. It's fine. I'm not saying that anything that I'm making is bad. I just think that is a weak part of my design, probably.
My pulp level.
The pulp is happening. We've got another caller in the queue. It is Discord user Randy Lubin. So I'm going to, usually I say that so that then the stream delay happens and that person can hear it and mute the stream so they don't have a brain attack when they hear us twice. So here we go. Hey, thanks for calling the Tabletop Call-In Show.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, fan of the show.
Oh, thanks.
So calling in to continue this conversation I was just having and throw out that there's a bunch of interesting examples of writing that helps facilitate both beginner players, as well as integrate the voice of the text and all the things to reference into the flow of the game, and that's in the like freeform LARP side of the design community. That like LARP scripts are a huge thing, so that sometimes the whole game is a LARP script, just like Eli was saying with the zine, where you just kind of read it front to back and that's the whole game. And sometimes there's the material that's separate from the script, but the idea is that as a facilitator, you just have this script that could be, however many pages you need, that you just go through one step at a time. So when you're like there in the moment running the game, you kind of just need that one thing front and center, and you just go step by step through the script, and the game is gonna kind of run itself, at least from like a facilitation standpoint.
Right.
Randy coming in hot with the knowledge. I fucking love it. Let's go, dude.
That does sound good. I haven't done enough.
I've done
really.
zero
I haven't.
LARP,
Yeah, I haven't.
so
I've done
good.
very little in like stuff in the LARP zone, and I would like more, especially soon. Whenever that's a thing.
I need a deer to get in. Yeah.
So like,
I think there's so much that the tabletop scene can learn from the LARP scene, and vice versa. Scripts being one good side of it, and it's just I feel like if there's a good place to look to get started with some of this, the past Golden Cobra winners is definitely a good one. So Golden Cobra is an annual like American freeform LARP writing competition, and it's like many game jams, we'll throw in like a few suggestions and ingredients, but you can kind of do whatever you want in terms of topic and theme, but it has to be short. So the games are all under, I think, 4 pages. So really easy to just like jump in, look at a few of the winners, see what they're doing. And I think a good chunk of them are written with like script format.
Right. I have read a fair number of the Golden Cobra games, and they just kind of light my brain up. But organizing a play session is always daunting. But I would like to. Yeah, and I actually haven't looked at it in like a year or two, so I'm gonna get in there.
The most recent year was all remote games, or either live remote games or like letter writing epistolary games. Of course, because of the pandemic. So lots of fun things that are easier, I think, to get to the virtual table.
Right. Yeah, because I've got people that like this kind of stuff on the internet. There are more of them on the internet than what you could find in person, I think, unless you've got a LARP type community.
Totally. Oh, another reference point. This is just an example I love. It's actually from board games more than anything, but writing the instructions in character and having some sort of like frame story can really punch things up. So my favorite example of that is a game called Space Alert, where you're playing a bunch of space cadets on a like what should be an autonomous like self-flying spaceship. You're just there just in case something goes wrong, but inevitably things go wrong, and then you have to start breaking it or start fixing what's broken. But the whole rulebook is written in from the perspective of like the instructor who's training you, who's like, I swear nothing's going to go wrong. I think actually it opens by saying like, we're here to celebrate the memories of our brave crew members who were lost in the. Oh, sorry, wrong speech. Wait, no, welcome. And so it's just like there's lots of good humor and flavor in there, and because it's like a training thing, it totally makes sense for the information to be delivered about how to play the game because it's training.
Yeah. The first couple of missions, I love Space Alert and teach it at conventions for CGE, and everybody's always impressed with how well I'm teaching it. And it's like I'm just following the script of this incredible rulebook. Because those first couple of missions are just like, here's some of the rules, and the reason you only have some of them is you're in like an empty room with buttons on the wall, and you just have to pretend. And then eventually, it's like, okay, you're on the real ship. Space Alert's really good.
It's so smartly designed.
Yeah.
I just wrote down everything. All I'm doing is learning right now. So like.
So one final sort of vector to throw in here, and this harkens back to something you were saying more at the top of the show about like making things really beginner friendly, both for like a beginner GM or a beginner player, and that is making really obvious optional choices. So that because I think like if you're new to running a game or new to playing a game, part of the learning curve is learning the mechanics, but the other part is the like creative improv, having something interesting to say. So having obvious defaults that might not be the most creatively brilliant thing, but are at least like will keep the game moving, I think is really, really strong. One example I can point to there is a game called Ghost Court by Jason Morningstar, which is sort of Judge Judy but with ghosts. And so the idea is that there are these matched cards of plaintiff and defendant, and the game loop is plaintiff talks for a minute, defendant talks for a minute, and then the judge has 3 minutes to answer and ask questions and then render a verdict. But the cards themselves have like a paragraph of text describing who your character is as plaintiff or defendant. And I think the really brilliant thing is they're written in such a way that if you are a confident improver, you can totally ham it up and like do your own interesting, engaging riff on the character. But if you're a more novice improver, you can always fall back and pretty much just read the cards. There's like the obvious thing to lean on. And so I think that's really savvy, and the more gamers can have, maybe not as far in the direction as obvious, just read the thing, but having some like very quick options off a pick list. I think that's like the Belonging Outside Belonging games do a good job of this, and I guess a lot of PBTA games in general just have really evocative moves that you can just do the obvious thing and you're going to be in genre doing something that's going to be fun and advance the story.
Yeah, the first thing that I thought of when you said that was like the GM moves in PBTA games, because those, at least for me, those are really helpful, because every time the table's looking at me for what happens, like the game's like tells you, look at this list and then make one of these vague sentences happen. And usually if I'm stumped, like the answer is in there, which is really nice. And hopefully, I don't know how, yeah. Ghost Court.
Having good defaults, good things that are at hand to grab and do is awesome.
I agree.
Oh,
Yeah.
one more example I'll throw out, and then
Okay.
I'll be done.
I'm
I
happy to
think,
hear it because this is good shit.
Yeah, yeah.
I love how in Alex Roberts for the Queen, like the
Oh, yeah.
instructions are just part of the game, and so you're just flipping over the cards, and they're right there, and so that way, I mean, it's a GM-less game, and you don't even need somebody who's like, yeah, they're not the GM, but they're kind of de facto the GM because they read the rules in advance, because that's just not necessary. It's all there.
Yeah, and it's like teaching you the flow of the game by the way that you're reading them.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
it does that double duty. Not only are you learning the rules, but you're actually playing the rules.
Yeah.
So good. This is also, just so everyone knows, it doesn't always have to be a question when you do the call-in show. You can drop stories, you can drop bombs. We're not perfect. I've been exposed to at current count 63 of maybe a billion games in existence. So my percentage pool is not large.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much out there that somebody, perhaps Randy, calls in and just knows a lot more about stuff in this category, and it's just great to hear it because, yeah, thank you for all of it.
My pleasure.
been
Thanks for
enjoyable.
pulling me on.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Do you have you wanted to plug anything?
Yeah,
if you're
sure.
before you
I
go?
guess I will plug StorySynth, which is a free web platform I make and maintain for making, playing, and sharing very simple prompt-driven storytelling games, like For the Queen. But there's a handful of other mechanics you can layer on top, so you can get a little more complex. So Descended from the Queen once, twice, 3 times removed. So my goal is to make it as easy as possible for anyone to go from idea to playable game. And you just add your prompts and any custom options to a spreadsheet, drop the link of the spreadsheet into StorySynth, and it auto makes the game. You can then share it with folks, and it'll create new sessions. If you're in a session with somebody else, it'll just sync all the cards and the data so you see the same things at the same time. So really, really excited for how that shaped up. There's a handful of designers making cool games on it. So if you go to storysynth.org and check out the gallery, you can see some of the cool games that people have made. And if anyone has feature requests or needs help, I'm always so happy to help out. So just let me know.
Awesome. Yeah, if I can ever make a prompt-driven game, I'll be there because that's very good.
Well, thanks again for having me on the show, and take care.
All right, thank you.
Randy.
Bye.
Bye.
Jeremy, are you frozen?
Wow.
Are you here?
I get the privilege of interviewing Randy on Thursday, so this is great.
Ooh, that's a little preview for you.
Yeah, a little preview. You get the call-in show exclusive. When the episode airs, who's to say?
In 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Or next week when you drop all of the things you're holding.
All 12 just putting in. Oh, God. That was great. I loved it. I was here for it. I have a whole note card worth of information now.
Yeah, I'm sitting there. I'm letting it process in. Letting it filter into the folds. What little folds I have available today.
You have so many folds.
Today.
Adam,
I don't know.
do you hear that? Does everyone hear that?
I do hear it.
I'm throwing my pen. There you go, a third time. We don't have any callers yet. And while that's processing in our brains, there's questions to be answered still.
Yeah. Let's get a real chunky one, like from Chris Bissett here, asking what would win in a fight? 3,000 tiny Chewbaccas or one regular-sized Gyarados?
It's pronounced Gyarados?
I don't know.
Jesus.
I don't know how Pokemon are
Christ,
pronounced. That's the big rock snake, right? No.
What?
No, it's not. Okay.
That's Onyx. How dare you?
Gyarados.
The answer is Gyarados in my mind. There's no way 3,000, unless the tiny Chewbaccas have weapons, but I'm assuming that they're only...
They always have little crossbows, right?
Oh, crossbows, though?
Don't
also,
you...
how tiny is tiny?
Chris,
hello? How tiny is tiny? Bowcasters.
Bowcasters, yeah. I'm really ruining everybody's day today.
Crossing a lot of genres here in one go.
Just butchering it.
My answer is Gyarados. There's no way you survive a hyper beam or a fucking waterfall, no matter how many of these tiny ant creatures there are.
You think they're ants?
I think the
You
tiny
think they're ant
means
size?
the size of a. They're like squirrel sized.
Squirrel
minimum.
sized?
Maximum.
Yeah. Well, what is
Squirrel size maximum.
in the world's greatest role playing game? What is tiny? I'm googling it.
It's a sturge.
Could they fit under doors?
It's a fucking ivy. It's a goddamn bat.
So, according to the player's handbook of the world's greatest role playing game, Tiny can control an area of 2.5 by 2.5 feet.
Yeah, no
Those
way.
Chewbacca's
no
are
way
winning.
do these 3,000
Absolutely.
It's one.
You're wrong.
Goddamned fucking hyper beam to like, even if it's not all 3,000 at once, that thing killed 1,500 of them. Cut it in half immediately on go one.
I think you're really underestimating the bowcaster.
Apparently, Jeff Stormer is upset.
They fire green lasers. All right, so that's a stalemate. Folks in the chat,
it's not a stalemate. It's a goddamn victory for the Gyarados.
That's what you say. If the chat can decide for their own selves. What else do we have here? Jimmy Shelter's question is just rude. I'm not even gonna. You can read it out if you want.
Because you hate it. What's the size and why is it the D4? Let me tell you why. Because it's a dice that is certain. Hits the table, it doesn't roll, and it says, this is the number I am. I'm not going to keep you guessing. It doesn't tease you.
But it is going to keep you guessing because they all have the number in a different spot, and you're like, which one is that?
Sorry, we're not buying the right D4s. That's not on me. That's on the buyer. If you decide which style of D4 you want, flat or pointy, Ty, call in real quick. D4, call in, Ty. I just need to talk to you for like 2 seconds. Can we take this out back, please? Thank you, MB. MB, call in along with Ty.
I think I complained about the D4 in the pre-episode 2. Pre-episode 1 or 2, whichever one in the podcast feed. So I don't need to get into it, but Ty is correct in the chat saying D4 sucks.
Get me out of here. I am with it.
This is one of the. All right, how do we get? Should we answer Aaron's other question or pick a number between 1 and 2, and we'll go to that one?
I'll roll a D4 for it.
Okay.
Evens, we go with Aaron. Odds, we go with Jeff. That's evens. We go with Aaron. Also, I read that D4 in a second. I'm basically a machine. Oh, Ty's trying to call it.
Okay. Let's get him in. Hi. Thanks for calling the Tabletop College Show. What's going on?
Yeah, you want to talk shit about D4s? Let's go.
I have a genuine question. I'm not here to talk shit about D4s, even though they suck.
Here we go. All right, what's your question, Ty?
All right.
Welcome back to the show, also.
Wow, that's quite the intro. I'm off kilter now. But,
that's my
so
life.
My question
that's
is,
what I present to people.
Yeah, you. That's the way to get a good interview too, right? You just get someone completely off kilter that they can't think straight. But all right, here's my question. So thankfully, the COVID days are finally going to, over maybe the next 6 months wind down a bit. And I think one of the things we've seen with COVID is that a lot of solo games are doing really well. And, it kind of opened up an entire new subset of gamers that not the bad gamers, but the role play gamers to see that sort of thing. And I wanted to know if you think that the trend is going to end when we're all back around the physical table playing with friends, or what other sort of trends that we've seen over this quarantine period that you want to talk about and hear more about, or think are going to stick around or maybe go away. You want me to just re-ask that maybe with more clarity?
No.
I get it.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. I'm here.
If you wanted to re-ask it, you could. I'm not going to stop you. But you don't. You don't need to at all. I think that I don't see any reason why it would go away. I think especially at the beginning, whenever people do start hanging out with people more, I think we probably all have forgotten how to do that. And so might spend more time like, oh, I'm just going to stay in tonight, actually. I'm good. As we ease back into the previous lives. But even then, like, there are plenty of days, I think, that people are going to be like, I could just be playing. Give me a solo game. Quick.
Oh, the machine.
I could just be playing the machine right now. Why not? Because, I mean, it's not like video games. Solo video games have been around for eons. When we play those. But the mechanical design space of solo games is just such a fun little playground because you could do so much weird stuff. I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. But what do you think, Jeremy?
I think Jace Addicts says something interesting, that you guys were playing with friends at Physical Tales Before COVID, ? And while that's probably partially a shitpost, it's also technically like, I think it's an assumption that we make that collaborative games at the table were like the mainstay. But like I said in the last guest, there are billions of games out there and billions of different players. And so while maybe, I don't know, in America, that's the only vacuum I can speak of, maybe solo games weren't ultra popular, that doesn't mean to say that solo games aren't popular somewhere else. So I think just the trend is starting to bleed out. There's also people who, I've seen conversations about how people probably won't really retain a sense of normalcy when it comes to engaging with others, with a sort of anxiety built up from COVID about how, even if everyone's vaccinated, there's still going to be this slight unease of being in large groups of people to some effect, right? Maybe you'll open a little who don't, just because they want to be safe, or that they've had some additional trauma attached to their lives because of this. And that's fine. I just think that for all of that is what I'm pointing to, and that I think solo games have probably always been popular in other places. And like MV is a huge solo game fanatic, and I believe MV is only 20 years old, 21. Am I wrong? MV, correct me. I don't know how old you are, but I know you're going to university, so I'm making an assumption. But like, that's MV's whole bread and butter, you know what I mean? And there are probably other people who have only like of solo games, like, period. Like, they love the video game solo game, they love the tabletop solo game, they love journaling, they love all of that. So I think if we're talking to America, maybe we'll see more solo games. And I think that there's more content out there for solo game actual plays that maybe I haven't seen, but there's definitely room for innovation in sort of the content creation field in that spectrum for solo games. And yes, to flat out answer your question, yes, I think there will be an upswing of solo game design from all of this, particularly talking about America. I can't speak for other countries, but that's where my intuition lies.
Cool. Yeah. And just to shout out Riley in the chat, despite asking this question about going back to, the real world, my longest like gaming group, like 8 years, I think, has been completely online. So I'm an old hand. The nice thing about this quarantine was seeing all of the virtual tabletops sort of get supported more, because it's like, oh, I've been here so long, and it's like, it's finally nice that all the games are like, oh, we're going, and we're gonna support digital play. So that was one of the nice things to see. But that's it for me.
Cool.
Thanks.
I do play games I play games in person a lot, and I like it, and I miss it.
I do also miss it. I can't. I just got my first dose last week, and I'll be getting my next dose on the 20th. And after that 2-week gestation, I would like to see some friends for sure who have also received their vaccinations. Play some games at a table for sure.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Thank you, Ty.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
And
Any-
D4 does suck.
Nope, no
You
plugs,
run,
okay.
you coward!
Just gone. But yeah, most of my friends that I've made in my adult life have been through like board games and stuff. So like it's usually pretty easy for me to be like, we're playing a role playing game tonight, and you're gonna like it. So like
Deal.
That's where I got a lot of that play in back in the day when that was a thing. But yeah, I think solo games are around to stay. But we do have another person in the queue. Friend of the show, Will Yobst, is up next.
Let's fucking do it.
Hey, thanks for calling the Tabletop Call-In Show. What's going on?
Hey, Will here.
Hey, Will.
How you doing?
Hey, Jeremy, Adam. This show is so good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Will Yobst, game designer in New York, Ontario, Canada. How's it going?
What's up, everybody?
What's happening?
I had to step out for the last few minutes, but I popped back in for the conversation about like gaming in quarantine and with and without people. I was wondering, both of you have made a ton of stuff in the last year, which is really hard to do. And you should be really proud of that stuff you've made, whether it's 2 to 3 tabletop related shows or the precipice of the new funding program that we'll all be using, or Zine Quest, etc. How have you found the support communities that you reach for or create or use in this time? It's something I've been thinking about, having just gone to an art gallery for the first time in 18 months or whatever, and just seeing a ton of art had me feeling like, damn, what does this feel like to folks that aren't creating in this online affinity community, basically?
Yeah, I'm trying to find an answer.
I mean, hard, right? It's really hard.
Difficult. So are we talking about like how you got something, Jeremy? I was going to try to clarify.
I'm still working through my brain. I'm smoking.
Okay. You're
Oh, sorry.
fizzling.
I have a bad. We can come back to this one. What is your first best player character?
No, I like the first question better.
What do you mean first best?
Okay, yeah. Your first one's never going to be good.
It's not. I
No,
think my
it's
first
usually
one's bad.
Who was your first
I
one?
want to know about both.
Yeah.
It was a D&D 5e monk named Lin Poo. I'll never forget.
You never forget your first.
I think my first like
mute
oh you
and had
got
a
more.
rat.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
This is more. No, this.
Jesus.
I need to know more about
So
it.
good.
That's it. That's all I got. I'll share no more.
My first 3 or 4 D&D characters were all named Glingerfell, which was the name.
Right.
My freshman year of college, my friend made me start playing Lord of the Rings online with him I lasted a week, but my character there was Glingerfell, and then he ended up being the first DM, so of course I brought him back.
Glinger.
Could you spell that for everyone in the chat for me, please?
It's Glingorfel.
No, I want you to type it out in the chat.
Based on name alone, Jeremy, do you think we could figure out what the character build was on the name Glingerfell? I'm thinking 2-weapon ranger, right?
Just really a strength ranger that has no business being in D&D, but really trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think which one was the first one was the Lotro character was a wizard with a bear companion.
Wow.
I think I've only ever really played casters because anything else is I don't want to say I swing the sword 100 times.
Okay, that's interesting. I got the opposite. I usually play some low mental real estate character.
I want my cognitive load to be on vacation in Miami.
And rolling a D8 is the best part about that game. So
The D8?
yeah, the longsword D8.
Seems fair. I wouldn't know. I've never done it.
I love it.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. You can't hold. Glingerfell is a title, is what you're saying, not a character.
I want to say the second time I brought Glingerfell back to Dungeons and Dragons, I think 4th edition at the time, was I had a whole backstory about how, despite looking and being nothing close to the original Glingerfell, was actually the same person through some tragedy.
Wait. I wanna do
Let's go back.
the existential question. Can you re-clarify the question for me so that I feel like I understand it when I answer it, instead of giving you an answer that answers something else?
I would love to. Okay, context. I went to a private gallery showing for some MFA projects yesterday, and the main topic of conversation after like talking about the work was the circumstances by which the work was made. In tabletop games, we have this online community that is very collaborative and strong, at least on twitter.com and on the Brain Trust and through itch. Like, we have a storefront that we're all familiar with. How do you find that process and coming at that from maybe other artistic avenues or whatever? How have you found it in quarantine? Because those things existed before, but in this time of, there's a lot of solo creative making, but I feel like I'm exposed to tons of public game design, which is really healthy for me.
Yeah, I think I don't think I would have made really nearly close to as much stuff if I as I have in the past year if I hadn't found online communities such as the official Discord for the Brain Trust podcast, which
I don't know what that is.
Everybody should listen to that if you like what Will's talking about here.
Two great hosts, 30 great minutes, maybe sometimes more.
Is that how long it is? I don't know how long it is. I just put it
Oh,
on.
we're at an hour, but I won't correct you on air, so you can edit that out.
But yeah, that space has been
like a 34-minute whatever. That's a second point.
We did one, which was like, damn, we got to reset this shitty show to get people back in. So I guess it worked.
To answer sort of how do these more public IRL industries find online footholds and communities, me and my partner talk about this all the time. Grace, she's a visual artist, and we just last night had a conversation about how do we abuse things, because I'm very like tech forward. I'm all about using the internet as a business tool and figuring out how I can reach as many eyes and ears as possible when it comes to the sort of stuff I'm creating, whether that be through itch, podcasting. How do I create that online funnel system, right? And I think that's where you're asking. Is that correct? I just want to make sure I'm still here.
Yeah, maybe.
Great, good.
Sounded good.
So I think there are, like, I think about things like Dribble and fucking, was it Behance are like some options for digital designers, and those help. I mean, Instagram is an obvious one, but I have mixed feelings about Instagram. And then I'm sure there are tools out there for getting those online things out there. And then for the community side of things, I think it's Discords. I think it's just like, I feel like there's just this, at least for what I've been exposed to with Grace, there's a sense of like traditionalism when it comes to art, and that online is sort of like a thing a lot of her older crowd of community members kind of scoff at. They're like, the most they'll do is a Facebook group, right? But I think, you know, utilizing things like Slack and Discords, maybe having like digital art exposés, like there's what is that called? Fucking motherfucking GatherTown, right? Like, why not have an art exhibition online through GatherTown and meet people too that way? That's certainly an option. And having like proper like art critiques, like not the ones you had in college as a freshman where everyone's kind of just like dunking on you, but like proper ones where people are examining like line art and asking about your color theory and contrast and things of that nature, like really getting into the terminologies and saying like what was your intent here, et cetera, and fostering those conversations. I think it's about using sort of the tools that are present even in ways that we've been using as the game design community, and figuring out how to create a game that play Discord, Will, you and Adam, and why not find a way to bring those community ideas that live in IRL places and putting them digitally in the same sort of function, like posting up someone. I know not all like image visual artistry pictures well and transfers into like you have to be there. It's like that sort of thing. I understand that, at least from what Grace tells me. This is all very secondhand. I want to put that as a grain of salt in this whole thing, that I'm a very secondhand, like, understand the art community in that way. But that would be my thought. That'd be my thought, to bring like the community and just figuring out how to structure that gap content that you went to, and figuring out how to re-emulate that or restructure it for a digital landscape, because there are more and more people using digital. I think about people who are just digital artists and use like Procreate or Affinity Designer or Adobe Illustrator, and that is their art form instead of like oil, watercolor, and charcoal and all that.
Beautiful. I design in command line, so yeah, I get digital.
I keep seeing the cookie. I played a lot of League of Legends, and everyone put the Cookie Monster in the fucking macro. So mad.
Yeah, I think my much simpler answer is that it has been very nice to. Well, I mean, I just don't have. That was a lot. I'm not ascribing quality to simplicity here. But just
you are
hanging out online with other creators that are obviously going through similar stuff and thinking their stuff is cool, and having them think my stuff is cool has been. I mean, that's nice. Because while we all
rules,
yeah, while we all wait for like commercial success and like the other people out in the world to find our shit, it's nice to like have that feedback back and forth. Like, yeah, our shit rules. The stuff that you're making, hey, it's good.
Yeah, we love it.
It's especially nice to be a part of a design community or like affinity group, whatever. Community is a weird word here.
Art collective.
Yes, where you're making things for this group to further the state of the art within this group. And it's like when I first got into games a long time ago, I like wanted more than anything was like a cohort of designers that I could share stuff with. And like now I feel like I have that, which is the goal. And so I've gotten that and done it. And so it's very nice and comfy to have that in quarantine, where I feel like I would have just stopped by now if that wasn't the case.
Oh, I definitely would have. Yeah. Who would I be making games for?
Fucking no one. Like
3 to 2 strangers that I can't play them really if I don't have
landlord. Like, yeah. On that note, I'll take my call off the air, but thank you too. The show's killer.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, if you want to plug anything, go for it.
Listen to the Brain Trust podcast with me and Adam Vass.
Do it.
Go to the Discord. Everyone here is invited. What else? Fucking Torque, I guess. I'm working on it. It's coming out in July. It's like what month is it? Right?
It is
yeah, January, dude.
Oh. Sorry, you actually confused me by saying that.
I heard it.
I'm gonna be thinking about that today. If you need editing on your game, hit me up. I would love to do that. My DMs are open. Otherwise, thank you two so much. The show rocks. Goodbye.
See ya.
Thank you.
We've got one more caller for today because we are at time, but that doesn't matter because we're not syndicated. We just do this on the internet. So Vidita, get ready. Or viewers, get ready for Viditya. Hello, welcome. Thank you for calling the Tabletop College Show. How are you on this fine afternoon? Silence.
Viditya, hello. My sweet.
Hello? Can you...
Well, wait. While Viditya's aching, say hi, everyone. My partner Grace has joined the chat.
Hello.
That's it.
Hi, Grace. Grace, you did a great job interviewing Jeremy the other day. I enjoyed that podcast. That special episode of the Draw Your Dice podcast.
With the mystery guest.
So ignore... Is Viditya here? There's Green.
Yeah, I hear.
We appear to be having technical difficulties with our latest caller. We'll give it a couple of minutes, and then we'll close the show down.
Wait, I can hear Viditya.
Oh, no. Is it on my end? It is on my end.
Oh, good. Oh, thank God.
Hello. How long have you been speaking?
I don't know.
seconds.
I've just been yelling help for a little bit. I'm
Yeah.
trapped in the college show void.
I think you were muted on my end because you must have called whenever we were having audio issues
Oh, no
on the
worries.
show. But you're back. Hello. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Viditya.
So, there's been great conversations happening. And there's, I love hearing all about, like, community and where we're going and various genres and stuff. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. In the past couple months, I've been racked with nightmares, waking up in the middle of the night, just sweating with fear, thinking about fucking progression in tabletop RPGs. I'm never satisfied by any of them. It keeps me up. I can't eat. Please tell me about games that have progression that you really like, or what your ideal progression system would be in a tabletop RPG.
Shit, now I'm gonna be up.
Are there any games that have progression systems that I really like?
Okay,
That's a
so wait.
great question.
What is a progression game? What is a progression system to do, right? What is it supposed to showcase?
Leveling up,
I guess
bro.
I'll narrow it a little bit. I'll say character progression, right? Because I feel like story progression and like narrative progression. Like, there's a lot of like tools there. And
There's a lot of
stuff,
progressions.
But like I never feel there's a lot of games where I never feel satisfied with either the pace or the mechanics or how my character is growing and my choice would matter and all of these things, right? Like there's pros and cons. So let's say like character progression. If that helps with narrowing it down.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like you took away all the good progressions.
No, what do you mean? There are so many good progressions.
Narrative progression, I'm here for that shit.
Lots of frameworks. Yeah, I agree, Viditya, first off, like before anything starts getting thrown out. I am not I think the biggest thing is like what you allude to is pacing. I think that sometimes the pacing of the narrative progression and the character like don't match all the time. Like they feel like they're moving at two different speeds, velocities. As to ones that I feel like I guess maybe this is a conversation about game balance as well, but I was just thinking that I kind of like the way Heart the City Beneath does progression. So they have what's called a callings system. It's narrative beats, so it ties in narrative progression and character progression. And so what you do is on your character sheet on the callings portion, at the end of a session, you will say, hey, GM, I would like to experience these two things in the next session. And it'll say like fall in love with someone and receive like a major blood fallout mechanically. And then if either of those things are accomplished, they have an associated progression with them. So like maybe the fall in love one has gives you a minor skill and the major blood fallout gives you a major skill. And so that's how the game does like leveling up, is when you it's like milestone. It's like gamifying milestone the way that D&D does not gamify milestone, at least in a structured way. And then in addition, like their minor and major beats are what they called, and then there's zenith beats where you unlock a zenith ability, and then that zenith also marks the end of your character. So because the ability generally kills you, so in some way. That would be one that I feel good about, but I still don't think quite gives me the full growth satisfaction that I feel like a character progress. I think when I think like traditionally level up, like it's still not like a level up style system. It's still more a narrative system. And so I guess that's not the best answer for your character growth one, but I think it's an issue with pacing, like you said.
I guess I would consider it. That sounds like a character thing because it's still like characters progressing and stuff.
Yeah, and you're unlocking new powers and stuff. I think that counts. See, I think my problem with a lot of the way that progression, like mechanical progression systems are designed, is like the pacing of it, because the game designer designs the progression system on the way they pace their games, and then nobody else paces the game, like plays at that pace. Because everybody plays games differently. So I think like the most flagrant example of that would be like Blades in the Dark, which to me I feel like a lot of the mechanics in that are too like they work, the longer term mechanics like work at a weirdly slower pace. Because I think I've read or seen that John Harper plays Blades in the Dark where like a score is like 3 or 4 dice rolls and then it's over. And,
wow.
Yeah, if I'm running Blades in the Dark, I mean like the score is the whole session. Like
we're going in.
Like,
dude.
we're not pumping through 1 or 2 of them. Because then there are mechanics that are like, oh, for the crew playbook, if you answered yes once, then that's 1 XP. But if you said more than once, it's 2 XP. So things like, did you execute a successful smuggling job? And it's like, yeah, we'll only ever do that once. We don't play at this rapid fire pace. And then a lot of the other stuff I think goes in with that. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I saw that that's how he plays that game. Which seems like a wild way to play it. I'd be interested in trying it, but I don't think I could ever run it that way.
Yeah, I can't. Blades in the Dark has always been, or any Forged in the Dark game has always been 1 full session of mission and then 1 full session at a time.
Right, not like back and forth between those two, which I think that also explains the way like the harm reduction in that game works, which like it takes like 4 downtimes to heal your harm, but like, oh, okay, it's because he thinks you're doing 3 downtimes in a session.
Not only that, it's like you're ripping through only like harm comes from more rolls. It's like the more you roll, the more you're stressing and hurting yourself. Like, yeah, maybe there should be some guidance about mission length.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. Okay, so pacing. Pacing is like a big one.
Yeah, I think heart is a good one. I think what the more satisfying end of the spectrum are ones where growth is considered through skills, even as like mechanically foregrounded as like step die systems. But something that says more about like emotional weight or experiential growth, or something that's like not video game, where like numbers have to be generated to present growth to the character, right? I want to learn my channel divinity through like as a cleric, right? Like if we're talking about the world's most popular role playing I'm gonna throw up.
Passiones, right? That's
yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah. Which you should all go check out. All Nerds Here. But the for puppets, I think the ones where it's like it makes it seem like a person, like you're vesseling a person rather than you're vesseling a set of code. I feel like numbers feel like code. So like when I play D&D 5e, I don't want to get like channel divinity at level 4 because that's what the game says. I want to get channel divinity because I've proved to my god that I am worthy of his domain's power, or something to that effect. Like I'm worthy of the cause that they've set forth for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's my dream.
Oh, the people that play the world's most popular role-playing game and actually follow its rules on XP, like, bless their heart. That's so much work.
That's me. I'm that person.
You do that? You calculate it and stuff?
Yeah, because Miles, like, it's like I as the GM say when you level up, what? Like that doesn't feel good to a lot of people. It's like I feel like I should be level 4. Yeah, but you still haven't gotten into the king's castle, so no stone advance yet. Like that's bullshit, dude. We just took on 20 bandits.
Back when I ran it, we did. I just kind of, we did gut based, you know. I was like, when was the last time we leveled up? Y'all want another one, or like we ready for it? And that worked pretty well. But can I
toss in like a sub question real quick?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
How do you feel about like talking about, you know, like not just numbers going up, and I feel like progression is a thing that we think about linearly in terms of like power scaling. But what do you feel about progression that like takes into account maybe a character's decline or like downfalls or flaws, right? It's like, oh, because that's something that I want to explore in my own games, where it's like progression means character change, and characters can change in good and bad ways, right? Like that's what makes them interesting.
Ooh, shit, I'm tingling. I'm picking the fruit. I'm juicing it. I'm getting ready to taste it right now. This is a hashtag Juice Nation moment. No, because in you haven't you don't know about Juice Nation, part of it now, so hashtag Juice Nation. But when in that same cleric example, right? What if I'm not doing the thing my god wants from me? I just finished watching season 1 of Fantasy High for Dimension 20, and one of the players, Allie, is playing a character named Kristen, who is the chosen of the corn god. And very like kind of stereotypical Bible thumping style of character, at least for like the first 2 or 3 episodes. And then as the progression of the show goes on, there's like some doubts that throw in. She starts learning about other cultures and their religions, and it's like, wait, is the corn god like not cool? Is the corn god bad? He did a lot of crusades. This is okay, hold on. And then like starts questioning her faith, right? And questioning of faith is part of faith in of itself. So like she creates a new god for herself, and all of her abilities are sort of like reflect that and way to change those things. But like what if I find out the like century of my god that like is not cool, and I'm like, I don't agree with this. I don't want like do I have to be a Tempest cleric for the rest of the game? No, I want to be able to switch over to like a fucking because light seems dope and lightning seems like a butthole. So like I would and then again, like what happens when I have to re-follow a new faith? What happens when I have to reinstill a new faith inside of my? What does that progression? Like, I lose everything from Tempest, and now I have to start slowly proving myself in light. It's not a 1-to-1. They don't have the same ideals. So like, what does that look like in a progression system? And I think what you're alluding to is very not just on the cleric level, but even like, what if I do a crime? What if I kill someone for the first time? What if I save someone from a burning building? Like, what does all of that do to my character, both in skill and in mental and physical capacity, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good.
I think a lot of like the negative type progression, you just have to have player buy-in, I think. So like building structures for the players to be like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck this person up that I'm playing. Like, let's go. But like I am not super well versed in OSR type stuff, and I feel like there's a lot of that in there, but mostly in terms of like, oh, your hand was in the wrong place in the dungeon, and now you don't have it anymore.
Yeah,
so like
very physical.
Looking at how different systems like that do it could be useful, and then like applying it to more other stuff that aren't just like injuries. Not that they all only do injuries, but you know. I think that's
Yeah.
a good area that's doing things like that because they're just used to characters dying and shit. So they're happy to fuck them up.
This is just a whole. This is my whole journey of being like, we think fail forward should also be a part of like fail forward doesn't mean just I failed a die roll and I mark progression. It should also be like, like, oh, you didn't succeed at a quest, but you still grew because of it, right? Like, succeeding and failing is all a part of growth. That I think a lot of games are missing. It's like
or like if you failed in this way, and like that has downstream effects on basically everything we're gonna do for the rest of this campaign, because your character trying to do this big important thing and like it fell short in some way, and like that is gonna change that character. But how you do that mechanically, I don't know. I hope you find an answer, because that sounds cool as shit.
I think there's also something to consider in terms of like you pointed out, like a lot of it's linear design, but like what if it was lateral design? Like what if I don't want to be a cleric anymore? Also, that's progression, right? Like what if I just want to be a fighter? I don't want anything to do with the divine. I want to give it all up. What does my character look like then? Do I have that option, and can I go back?
Where were you when I took off the robe?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think about that with like PBTA playbooks, and this is like older PBTA games where it's like, oh, once you've progressed through this playbook, choose another one or retire. And it's like, technically, like mechanically, I have to wait until I have fulfilled my duty as a cleric before I can change to something else.
Right.
And it's like it's like weirdly freeform, but also strangely restricting, in that sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
now,
you.
Hopefully I'll be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, I hope
and
that
eat?
we have helped with that. All right. Yeah. What do you got to plug here? I saw Space Goblins pictures today. That looked very nice.
I'll plug a few things, so I'll hopefully try and get through quickly. But you can, I'm Video Tabletop. You can follow me online at Video Tabletop basically everywhere. I just released a game called Basic TCG, which is like a community created trading card game. So it only lives if a community engages with it. So feel free to look into it. It's very easy to make cards for. It's very fun. You don't even need to play. You just could make a card, and then now that's available for people who want to play it. Right? It's a cool time. And also, my cast member on All Nerds Here, happening at 3 p.m. EST, is a game I'm not a part of, but on twitch.tv/allnerdshere is Sunflower Street plays for the dungeon. So if you want to see players, or if you want to see puppets play a role-playing game, not players who are represented by puppets, but puppets who are characters playing characters in For the Dungeon. It's really good. It's really fun. It's just a really fun time, so you should definitely go check it out. And then similarly, on twitch.tv/allnerdshere, I'm a part of an all-POC cast game of Passion de las Pasiones called Corazon Station, which is a sci-fi space station telenovela game. We've just like hit the hurdle of, I think this is episode 6, so we have about 4 more episodes left in our season. So come by, watch it. If every episode is like a season finale, that's kind of the best pitch I can give. So no matter where you are, you can always hop in and it'll be a blast. That's about it.
Cool. Yeah, everybody check that shit out. It's good.
If I find out you didn't show up, I'm not letting you juice anymore.
Oh my god, Juice Nation!
Juice Nation! Help the puppets juice. Help Corazon Station juice. Tell them Juice Nation sent you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is part of the reason why we shifted the time on Sundays, because there's no reason for our shows to be competing for
thank you so
time
much.
and viewers.
I really love that. That made us all feel really loved, and this is a wonderful community, and we want to always share the love as well. So,
Well, thank
all
you.
right.
Good talking to you.
Thank you so much.
See you later. All right. So that's the show. We did it.
That's
We're
the show.
We're 20 minutes over time this week, but
As always.
it's because the viewers took 20 minutes to find us and start calling in, which is good. I enjoyed it. We got through some of the pre-questions from Twitter. We had some great conversations with some guests. I had a good time. So you want to just wrap it up? Who are you, Jeremy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeremy Gage. You can find me at JeremyGage5 over on Twitter. You can catch me on the Draw Your Dice podcast, where you can listen to some of these callers who have been guests on the show, including Ab, has also been on the show twice now. Where we learn about the principles and philosophies of game designers to help educate you and bring new inspirations to your next content project.
Cool. And I am Adam. This is the only show I do. So like follow me on Twitter or wherever else at Adam E. Bell. Follow the show at Tabletop Call-In. Tune in live Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'd recommend it. I haven't been able to super keep up with chat because I only have so many brain processes, but it's been great in there today. So like watch live so you can join in that discussion. But of course, if you can't watch live, get us on your podcast app, check it out on YouTube, or watch the highlight on Twitch. Whatever you want, whatever's best for you. But watch it for real.
Yeah, but for real, like
And,
good
like,
stuff.
And subscribe and shit and rate if you can. I don't know. Sounds great. That's what you're supposed to say.
Yeah, review it, whatever. Give
Hey,
us.
what is up, guys? Welcome to my channel. We're out of here.
Hey everyone, it's Fartbrain 9000. I just want everyone to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be reminded of when all the new videos come out each week, Wednesday and Saturday.
Smash that
This is not
bell.
for the call-in show. Yeah, smash the bell, tingling ring ring.
All right, we're out of here. Thanks everybody that called in. Thanks everybody that hung out. Thanks everybody that's listening to this later.
Enjoy the tavern music.